let's kick things off to Z. So Z, I'll introduce you. You actually come from a very interesting background, and you're transparent about the years that you navigated the valleys of depression, anxiety, and from being in the tech realm, you basically left that career, dove headfirst into finding peace and healing, and did a big career pivot. And now you are a coach, an educator, an entrepreneur, and really a mental health influencer. And so, with that, can you share a bit about your personal journey, Z? What drew you to mental health?
Yeah, first off, thank you so much for me, and thank you everyone for being here. So, what drew me to mental health? It felt like there wasn't a choice, to be honest. Um, I just turned 30 a couple of days ago, and it's surreal to me that my journey would lead me to where I am today. And my journey really began maybe 3 years ago. Before that, I was leading a very different life. A little bit of my cultural background because that comes into play when it comes to my mental health journey. I come from an immigrant Chinese family, and in our culture, mental health, inner care isn't really talked about. It's kind of more so just swept under the rug. If we know someone in our family that experienced maybe depression, anxiety, it's kind of like a hush hush element. We just don't talk about it. So our culture lacked a lot of guidance in that realm when it comes to inner struggles. And then the education system was lacking too. I didn't receive any education when it came to inner care and the importance of mental health. Um, but that's okay. I had a dream to chase, get that degree, and find a good job. Right? That was the prerogative parents gave me. And at this moment, I just want to say, like, if at any point the audio kind of cuts in and out, feel free to just like stop me and let me know.
Yeah, it is a little bit Z. We got a attendee that said that it's going in and out.
Mm.
Um,
I can try. I can try to use a different headset or earbuds to try to do this. Let
okay.
me try something else. Yeah. Okay, this is actually just straight from the MacBook. Does this sound any better?
Much better. Yep,
Okay,
much
awesome,
better.
awesome. So yeah, I was speaking a little bit about my
Oh, now you can hear the fan though. Sorry, Z. It's funny, it was good in our tech check, and now
boom.
the-
No, better.
yeah.
Okay, just gotta take care to drink some water, regulate my body temperature now, but no problem. Adjusting on the fly here.
Okay.
So yeah, I was basically very poorly equipped to deal with any inner struggles. It was just like get the degree, get the job, get the money, get the security. And I was kind of like beating over my head over and over. So I was very narrow-minded and I just focused on that. Um, so like you mentioned, I worked in tech corporate for about 7 years. And during those 7 years, my mental health really suffered. Outwardly, no one could tell. I I knew how to put on a smile, right? When it came to talking to my friends, I knew how to act in a way that didn't cause them any concern. I didn't want people to worry about me. But inwardly, I was like a complete mess. I had a lot of insecure thoughts kind of just floating around in my mind all the time. It was hard to stop thinking. I felt like I didn't know who I was as a person. I even told my girlfriend at the time, like, I feel like I don't know how to be human. It's
Mm.
hard to make sense of that, but that's genuinely how I felt. And I carried around a lot of anxiety, tension, nervousness. It just got so bad that I was like, you know what, I have to heal. I can't live like this. It was a very desperate place, I would say. Um, so I tried coaching, I tried therapy, but what really did the trick for me was plant medicine. Specifically, I went to Peru and did ayahuasca. It was like a week-long retreat, and through that experience, I learned that, oh, like I just didn't know how to use my mind properly. I wasn't educated in that area.
it wasn't like so much so a disease or a diagnosis of depression or anxiety. It was more so an education and skill issue for me. Um,
Mm.
and that helped me so much. I just started sharing that on social media, really resonated with people. And then before long, I quit my 9 to 5 to do this full time, sharing these insights and then helping people in a one-on-one capacity. And honestly, like the dream here is to have this taught in every classroom, right? Like imagine classrooms, children getting to learn about how to navigate their thoughts, regulate their emotions. Um, my motto right now, at least, is always education over medication, right? If we can not directly go to medication, but like address it before it even happens, then the cost that we save down the road is like tremendous for our society. And so that's why I'm here, and I'm so thankful for ShareWell for giving me this platform to share.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, Z. We fully support your mission there. And I would love to transition into diagnostic labels.
Yeah,
I I know most of us know what that means, but for anyone who's not aware, what are some examples of diagnostic labels, and why do you believe that it's important um, to move beyond them?
yeah. So the fundamentals of diagnostic labels, like for example, generalized anxiety disorder, that's like 18.3% of all mental health diagnoses last year is the highest one, with depression, PTSD, and ADHD following closely after. And the idea behind it is that it's a grouping of symptoms. And then once we can recognize a specific grouping of symptoms, we label it something, and it gives us a handle of what's going on, and it can help us like facilitate certain treatment options. Now, it's more so about the way that it's used that could be detrimental for some people, because for some people their diagnosis can feel like a sentencing, right? Like you have generalized anxiety disorder, you have so and so, and then people can attach their identity to it. They can overly identify themselves with their disorders, with their diagnosis. um, like sometimes I'll meet someone and they've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. They'll just go around saying like, I'm just an anxious person, right? It's like they've taken a snapshot of who they are as a person, and now they've dismissed and kind of disregard their ability to grow and change and develop certain skills like navigating anxious moments. So
Mm.
for me, it's more so about softening and becoming conscious of how we use our diagnosis, not in a way to disempower us, to inform us, yes, but never to attach our identity to it. They're, I, they're diagnosing our experience. They're not diagnosing who we are as a person. And that's a very important distinction to make here.
I love that. Diagnosing our experience versus who we are as a person. Very powerful.
Absolutely.
And Z, so you're a big advocate for a skill-based perspective. And can you share a little bit about what a skill-based perspective is? And how does that differ from traditional approaches?
For sure. Um, and the disclaimer I want to put out there is not to disregard one for the other. It's not like saying no to traditional approaches and yes to just purely skill-based approaches. It's more about expanding our toolkits so that people have more options to choose from. Um, so the traditional approach is looking at everything through the lens of pathology. Like everything is either a disorder, a dysfunction, a disease, something of that sort. And then we can label you as that thing. A skill-based perspective is more so seeing our mental health challenges, our inner struggles, as an innate skill that can be developed. Regulating our emotions, right? Anger management, navigating anxious thoughts, tuning into our breath, settling our heart rate. When we see all of these things as skills and create programs and practice it, it can all improve. It's like any skill. Naturally, some people have, let's say, amazing focus, and naturally, some people may not be talented in that realm, but everybody can benefit from practice and improve that skill. So that's the main difference between a skill-based perspective versus traditional approach. And there's something to be said for even combining both, right? You can figure out what the diagnostic label is, and then maybe create a treatment plan that includes medication, but also includes training of certain skills. Um, I see this a little too often, which is overly relying on medication that when they don't have it, it's like, oh my God, I need it, and it's not very healthy in that sense. Um, and some people are actually very resistant to certain medical treatments, medication. I think they're called like treatment resistant patients. So this then becomes another path for them. And then there's plenty of people who just don't want to take medication, period, for various personal reasons. Could be, distrust of pharmaceutical companies. It could be just not wanting to ingest something that affects their brain chemistry without guarantee that this will cure something. So again, like the skill-based perspective is a very low risk way to explore improving our symptoms and healing ourselves without too much external ingestion of medication.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Z. We do talk in our support groups on ShareWell a lot about medication and the different dynamics and people's preferences and getting support outside of meds. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. And I would love to dive a little bit deeper into the skill-based perspective and some other practical tips.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use a couple specific conditions, say like an anxiety label or ADHD. Would love to hear your yeah, some practical tips.
Yes, yes. I'm excited to share the practical tips because we're kind of touching upon like the knowledge side of things, but now it's like, okay, how do we actually put this into practice to make a difference in our life? So I'm so glad you asked that. So I will start with, let's say, anxiety, right? Um, the practical tip here is if anybody has ever done like a workout routine, if they've ever trained for like a dance choreography, if they've ever trained for anything, it's the same type of mindset. You set aside intentional time to practice and to train. So for example, anxiety, you'll set aside time to allow yourself to feel everything. We can't know more about our experience with anxiety if we don't allow ourselves to experience the anxiety. If we keep avoiding that experience, we're not learning about that experience. So setting aside intentional time to be with your anxiety. And the key word here is to be with it, not feed into it. When we feed into it, what that looks like is maybe your anxiety is triggered by a what if thought. What if I lose my job tomorrow? What if that happens? What if my family falls ill? And we feed into it, that would look like, okay, if that happens, that must mean I have to do this, but then I have to have this conversation with this person, might have to take out a loan, and it just keeps going and going and going, and we can spiral, right? It's a soft, anxious experience could become a full-on panic attack because we feed into it and it spirals. Um, so it's being with it without feeding into it. And by being with it, it's just observing it. It's like, oh, this is what I'm feeling right now. Like, what is this trying to tell me? Like, what does this mean for me? What does this show me that is important in my life? And my favorite thing to practice here when it comes to, practical tips for anxiety, I call this exercise, Where is the Love? It's like that song, Where is the Love? And the idea behind it is like when you have an anxious thought come up, find where the love is. This is a real story from ShareWell, and for the sake of anonymity, I'll keep the name private. I'll just say Mary, made up name. So Mary was having an anxious experience about custody over her child. So it's just like court proceedings, divorce, all that was happening. And she was very scared, very afraid of losing her child. So then we practiced, where's the love? And I was like, where's love, right? You're scared, but that fear is based on something that you love. And it clicked, oh, I love my son. Like I love being with my son. And then I was like, there you go. Focus on the love, not the anxiety. And the next time we met up, something's like changed. Like her vibe wasn't like fear-based anymore. It was like, oh yeah, I got this. I love my son, so I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make sure I gain custody. And then after that, it's in the universe's hand. I'm gonna do my best. It's when we embody a space of love, it's much more empowering than embodying a space of like fear. When we are fearful, our prefrontal cortex kind of shuts down. That's where we all do our rational thinking, right? So we become very primal. Our critical thinking skills out the window. So it's better to embody love than it is to embody fear. Um, so to sum that all up when it comes to anxiety, set aside intentional time to be with your anxiety and then find the love. It's like treat it as a game, like find Waldo. Like where is the love? It's there
Mm.
somewhere. And to speak a little bit about ADHD, because I know this is a very common one nowadays, our focus is like constantly being hijacked 50,000 different directions, right? Um, Similarly, you set aside intentional time to practice and train. So what you do, I like to start people off with just like 5 minute timer. See if you can focus on one thing for 5 minutes. And the important thing here is you got to write it down, right? You write down these words: original intention, right? It could be cleaning my room. It could be studying, working on a project, whatever it is. Write down your original intention, and then whenever something new is asking for your attention, you always check back on that note that you wrote. Oh, what was my original intention? Ah, yes, to do this task. So now we went from our original intention to, oh, something that's vying for our attention. And then we guide it back to the original intention. Every time we're guiding it back, it's one rep. So we're working that muscle one time, two times. And before you know it, your ability to sustain your focus has improved. Then you can bring it from 5 minutes, 6, 7, 10. A personal record of mine is like 2.5 hours. And then before I started at 15 minutes. So this again is just embodying that skill-based mindset. This is some things that we can improve by practice through training.
Mm. Yeah, that's great, Z. There's that quote, right? You've got to feel to heal. And that's what came into my mind when you were like, oh, carve out an intentional space, feel the feelings. And I love that. And I love also this skill-based approach too of really training and being intentional about the time you carve out to train. Those were really powerful tips. Do you have any other real life applications that you'd like to share?
Mm, Real life applications. I guess it will be more so speaking a little bit more on how we use diagnostic labels. Sometimes it can be used as a way to excuse certain behaviors, right? Like, let's say I did something, someone calls me out for it. Now I can own up to it, or I can be like, ah, it's because I have so and so disorder, it's because I have so and so dysfunction, which is very valid, right? These do affect our behaviors and our actions. But if we just stop the conversation there, oh, it's because I have this and that, then there's no growth to be had. But on the other hand, if you add on to that, if you tack on to that, but I'm working on it. It's something that I'm training. It's something that I'm practicing. I'm working on it. Then all of a sudden, it doesn't become a reason to excuse how we are. It becomes a way for us to improve through acknowledging our actions and then owning our ability to navigate life moving forward. Um, so yeah, I know that didn't really touch on too much about like the practical application, but that just came up in my mind that I felt like was very important to share. And as for other real life applications, it's what changed the most for me is starting to see everything as a skill. I had a lot of social anxiety. That was a big one. Um, and approaching that with a skill-based mindset made it fun, right? It made it like, even if I'm not accepted by the social group, no big deal. I'll try again tomorrow with a different group, see what happens there. It's all going to be okay. It's so much more empowering to recognize that we can improve ourselves through training. And honestly, if you just do like 5 minutes a day, every single day to train these parts of yourself, within like 30 days, you'll see significant results. And this is like something you could just try. You don't have to believe me. In fact, don't believe me. Just try it for yourself, then you'll know for certain whether it works or not.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just want to share that quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, Z, I love this tip. I know that you coach people as well, and help them with specifically anxiety and other mental health challenges. And so that 5 minutes a day, I mean, it's not a large amount of time, right? And to make a real tangible impact. And I'm sure you've seen that in your clients. I'm curious, What other words of wisdom do you commonly share with your clients that all of our audience members could benefit from?
Hmm. Let's see. What words of wisdom I commonly share with my clients that we can all benefit from? I think I let love lead me a lot. Um, and I think that's something many people can benefit from because many people are led by fear. We follow our fears. But every fear, again, is rooted in our love for something, right? Some people have death anxiety. They have fear of losing this life, but that's because they love life. Right? There's always something that we love on the other side of fear, but we tend to focus on the fear and miss the love. So this goes back to the previous exercise of always finding the love. Like, where is the love? And just embodying that space. That alone, I've seen people grow from just a fearful space, disempowered, to like, oh yeah, I got this, you know. So it's always finding out, making a practice repeatedly to find the love because it's a kind of programming. We're programmed to look for fear, right? It's news media certainly doesn't help. Uh, the media we consume in general certainly doesn't help because fear is a very strong emotion. So then when we're fearful, it's like we're kind of entranced and we're glued to the screen by the fear. And we're trained to be in that state. This is not our natural state of being. The natural state of being, now we have to train back, is to be in a state of love, constantly loving everything, loving ourselves included. Um, and slightly off this topic, which is but still something that I feel like is very important for people to know is include yourself when it comes to how you navigate the world. What I mean by including ourselves is let's say people who are very empathetic, right? And I consider myself as someone who's very empathetic. We tend to exclude ourselves when it comes to the empathy. We are always so understanding of other people. Somebody wronged us, and I'll be like, yeah, but that's because they come from this so and so background. And then I invalidate how I feel because I'm so empathetic for them. But expand your circle of empathy to include yourself. Let me be empathetic towards myself. My feelings are valid. You know, I understand where they're coming from. I can hold that. And at the same time, I can acknowledge how I feel, which are both valid. Um, Another example of this would be people pleasing. Anybody with like a people pleasing tendency, include yourself in the equation. It's hard to tell a people pleaser to just be like, hey, just stop people pleasing. It's not that simple. So a better approach is kind of to lean in to people pleasing, but just include yourself in the list of people you please, right? You just add yourself to the top of the list. Okay, I am the most important person. Let me please myself first, take care of myself first, so that I can better take care of everybody else. So yes, these are some of the things that just came to mind off the cuff that I want to share.
Yeah, that's great, Z. And I see a question coming in our Q&A. We'll switch over to the Q&A in 3 minutes, but if you all want to start typing in, we'll take a look at those and then we'll start to answer them live. So yeah, get your questions ready. So Z, in our last couple
Powerful note,
minutes
Z, to
of
end
the
on,
interview thank you so much for chatting with us today and sharing your valuable insights and tips. I loved the practical strategies. For those who want to stay connected with Z, I posted 2 links in the chat. We've got his website and his YouTube channel. His YouTube channel has some longer form, what would you say, tools and in all different aspects of mental health. And also your Instagram, Z, I personally follow and I love, so check out Z's Instagram. And then for those who want to stay on this journey with us, we have 3 more experts that we're chatting with today. I posted a link in the chat as well. Join our other talks, join some of our support groups. And Z, I just want to thank you so much for sharing this space with us today.